Ackerley Sports Group will meet with the 7 dissenting provincial unions just days before a new vote date set for early December and a final chance to seal the fate of the equity deal. Originally slated for a vote on the 17th of October, the decision was delayed to the 6th of December due to pushback from some of the unions who now seek clarity from ASG on key issues regarding the US-based investment group's 1.3 billion rand proposal for a 20% stake in SA Rugby's commercial arm. And to help us understand what is going on here with all these big numbers and these billions that are spoken about, we are joined by a Sport 24 reporter and SABC sport commentator and journalist of the year at the South African Sport Awards, Kanyiso Chwaku. And there he is there to talk to us about what is happening. Good evening from us, Kanyiso, and thank you again for being able to speak to us.
Good evening, Tabiso, and good evening to the viewers.
Basically, what is this storm about? Why are some of the unions not happy?
Look, it's quite an extended issue, but I think the long and the short of it is that, one, I think the price of the deal is one. I think, two, it's one of the caveats of the ASG deal and the commercial rights companies that the test match right, not the test, the organizing and the profiting of the test match is then taken away from the unions, and that's probably one of the biggest fights because test matches in particular are big revenue drivers for the unions. For example, Western Province Rugby, for example, made around 70 million from the All Black Test, from what I understand, and then the Lions Rugby made roughly just over 100 million rand from the All Black Test. So remember now, those profits in particular would then become SA Rugby's and the commercial rights company's property. And remember that there was also a toing and froing between some of the unions, especially the 4 big ones, and SA Rugby with regards to paying the hosting fee, which also goes back to the other unions. Because if you look at the unions that are against the deal and you look at the unions that are for the deal, I think it paints a very key picture in terms of who wants the deal to work and who is not scupper the deal, but wants a better, clearer picture. Or in one of the clauses, the big four the big four actually want in as SA Rugby's equity partners.
So just to go back a little bit, if this deal does go through, what would ASG be in charge of basically?
There will be a significant member in the commercial rights company. They'll have 3 members on the commercial rights company, along with SA Rugby having 3 members on the. So it will be 3-3 split. Then with ASG having the right to appoint the chairman. That's also another issue because then there is a perception that ASG will be then in full control, and also they'll be gaining 80% of the profits, even though they only have a 20% stake. So that's another issue that has been at the heart of the issue, the complaints with the 4 big franchises. Because when you look at that later, they said they were the ones, along with Boland, along with Free State and Griquas, they were the ones who are at the heart of it, not stopping the vote, but who raised a litany of complaints in the lead up to what the voters ended up being postponed in the week of the 17th.
So then why would SA Rugby go and seek an equity partner, especially one from outside the country? Is this the norm when it comes to international rugby? Is this where rugby is moving now?
It has, not where it's moving, it has. Remember that the All Blacks, New Zealand Rugby, already have a US-based equity partner in Silverlegs, who bought a 6% stake for 100 and... I'm just trying to figure out the amount, but it's over 100 million rand. 100 million, not this. I'm just the number escapes me at the moment. So it's nothing new. And I think the key part now is that the deal is now looking at an overseas-based investor group. It's to unlock new markets, unlock new sponsorships, and I think also a lot has to do with the underutilized or the undertapped value that SA Rugby has, especially being double World Cup winners. I mean, one of the issues at hand would be what is a very hefty sponsorship deal, the shirt sponsorship deal that SA Rugby has in place with the current sponsor MTN, but pales in significance as compared to the one that New Zealand has, Altad. And remember that Altad is a French-based company. It's not a New Zealand-based company. So those are the kind of commercial outflows that SA Rugby is looking to take for. Not that they're not grateful of MTN sponsorship, but because of where their brand is positioned, they would love to be boxing in a different market.
And I guess this would be the right time, considering that they're back-to-back World Cup winners and the best team in the world by far.
Exactly. I mean, unless the Boks then go back to back in 2027, that's 3 years away, so we can't even predict that. I mean, the Bok brand is probably at its highest at the moment. I mean, if you looked at the struggle to get Springbok jerseys, that probably indicated where the Bok brand is at the moment. So I think one would also look at the 4 franchises, at the 4 equity group partners who are also chasing a part. But remember that there's a 3-month exclusivity period that expires, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of December. So there's also that Boxing Smart. If you look at the postponement from that particular letter that was sent to SA Rugby, it's very clear and coded that the 4 big players do have a time frame in place where they also want to be part of the negotiating group in terms of being SA Rugby equity partners. But on the other hand, you also look at those 4 brands and you look at how well they've done as international brands. Are they able to take the Springboks if they were to become equity partners? Do they have the commercial capacity and expertise to grow the Bok brand beyond its current borders? And if you compare to where the current borders of those particular brands are.
There's been talk that Dr. Patrice Motsepe is also part of ASG. What is his role then, from your understanding here?
I would suspect that, I'm not quite sure with that one, but I would suspect that it has to do with ASG also roping in a local people to work with, because I mean, you look at how they do in football coaching, where you bring in where a foreign coach will come in with 2 or 3 assistants, and then also have a local to make them understand how the environment works. I suspect that it wouldn't make sense for local businessmen who are involved in rugby to be part of that consortium, to just give them a bit of a wade in from a foot perspective to see how deep the local rugby waters are, and just understand the environment that South African rugby exists in from a business and a political perspective.
Talking about a business perspective, the sports minister has weighed in, as you would expect, and he feels that SA Rugby is being shortchanged here. He feels that they could have bargained for more and they could have got more from this deal. What do you make of what he's there to say, and how has it been received?
Look, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one in the fact that the All Black Silver Lake deal is probably the benchmark for considering that the All Blacks got 2.4. Got the number still they still got evaluated higher than 233 million. It's just the number just escapes at the moment.
It's a lot of money. Just say it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. It was a higher deal than what the Boks got.
Yeah.
So, but one needs to also understand the power of the All Black brand. It's been a long-standing deal. I mean, a colleague of mine actually puts it this way, that the All Blacks are the Brazil of rugby, and regardless of where they are, they still hold bigger selling power. South African rugby has not quite cracked that level of commercial capability at the moment, and that's probably where the sports minister's issue would be, that why are the Boks undervalued as compared to the All Blacks? I think it's just the difference between the commercial and the commercial capacities and the popularities of the team abroad.
There are some concerns, though, especially from the unions, that there could be some repercussions here, especially those who are pushing back against the deal. We saw a letter that was leaked that was to the unions, where they're being made to reapply to host their test matches. Is that normal? Are people reading too much into that because of what's happening at the moment?
I suspect too much is being read into it, because at the end of the day, if the URC template, from a South African perspective, wouldn't work without those 4 teams. They are the 4 big South African teams. The entirety of the South African brand of the URC part is titled on the team. I mean, that story is pretty clear that they were going to have to reapply for the URC status. And remember that South Africa SA Rugby will get their partnership in the URC effective next year, so they'll actually stop paying to travel for URC. There will be partners who will be receiving money from the broadcast deals that the URC and the sponsorship deals that the URC has in place. So it wouldn't make any business sense for one, 2 or 3 of those teams to be ejected, because immediately South Africa's market share in that tournament would then decrease. So I think too much is being read into it. But then again, knowing how South African rugby politics work, I won't say it's been a conversation that is taking place. But again, SA Rugby, to be fair, would be unhappy with how the deal, how the things broke down. Because at the end of the day, as much as the big four sides they have equity partners, not the subsidiaries, the rugby custodians remain the Lions Rugby Union with Neville Jardine as president, Sharks with Graham McKenzie as president, the Bulls with Willem Strauss. And the Stormers, remember that Western Province don't have a president at the moment. They're still under administration. So there would be those, I won't say that there'll be political ramifications per se, but at the end of the day, there would be unexpected unhappiness from SA Rugby because everyone stands to benefit, especially the teams who are lower down on the provincial rung and are unable to generate their own steady income from revenue, but remain key contributors to the SA Rugby sphere.
Okay, so just to confirm, the teams that are playing in the URC now are being made to reapply so that they can keep their positions in the URC. Would this be the same teams then, and the teams from the same unions that are pushing back against this equity deal?
Yes, because if you look at that letter in particular, you'll see that the Lions are there, the Sharks are there, the Bulls are there, and Western Province are there. So those are, and remember, those are the big four franchises, the provinces whose franchises participate in the URC, along with the Cheetahs, who actually are generally invites, who get invite status in the Challenge Cup, which falls under the EPCR. Then they've got the Griquas and and Poland, who are also part of the Bulls too by virtue of the equity ownership of Remgro.
Finally, financially, where is SA Rugby at the moment after these back-to-back World Cup wins?
Look, they declared a lower loss last year as compared to the year before. So they're still finding their way back to the financial black zone. However, remember that they are spending quite a lot of money participating in the URC and the EPCR tournament, which is why they have not been able to generate as much or any sort of profit. For the past 3 seasons, they've had to pay they've had to sort out South Africa's expenses in the URC. I think the financial status, especially next year, will change once there are shareholders in the URC and in the EPCR, from where they'll be able to reap in the profits and the benefits of being part of those tournaments.
Okay, and that's why you are SA Sports Journalist of the Year, Kanyiso Chwaku, joining us here on Sports Live and giving us a breakdown of what seems to be a complicated a deal that SA Rugby is looking to push over the line with ASG. Then let's see what happens in that meeting then that is scheduled.